Dilvari and Arander were on their way to the inner sanctum of Nightcaller Temple to destroy the Skull of Corruption. Awakened orcs and Daedric priests of Vermina, who were insane for being asleep for decades, had been attacking them, and Dilvari was finding her magic completely ineffective. She did what she could with her flame magic, but then had to run to Arander for help, and again he delivered with that help, dealing not with the priestess but then with another priest. Dilvari was feeling like really the only thing that she could capably do was to go ahead and take the things on the table that weren't moving. After dealing with the priests, Arander had run ahead. Now Vermina had tried to follow close, but as Arander went into this other room, she heard fighting and then silence. Sneaking around the corner, she found one form laying in the ground, and Arander, who was down, but then he sprang up. He suddenly rushed at an orc that was laying on a bed. Taking a lead from him again, she tried to burn the orc, but as impressive as it may have looked, she really didn't accomplish much. Again, it was Arander who took out the orc. While going through the barracks, Dilvari happened to find an exquisitely crafted robe of Vermina. She went ahead and grabbed it, figuring and hoping she could sell it later. As they pressed onward into the inner sanctum and towards the Skull of Corruption, they continued to fight the awakened orcs and priests of Vermina. Now, Dilvari did what she could, but over and over her magicka just continued to deplete itself, and she wasn't really doing a lot of damage. Finally, Arander led her into a huge room, and up ahead they could see it, the Skull of Corruption. Dilvari paused for a moment. Two priests came out from the main inner sanctum and confronted them both.
Thoric, you're alive. No thanks to you, Casimir. I no longer use that name. I'm Arander, priest of Mara. You're a traitor. You left us to die and then ran before the miasma took you. No,
Dilvari realized this probably wasn't going to end well.
Enough of your lies. I can't allow you
And
to destroy the
unfortunately,
skull,
she was
priest of
correct.
Mara.
A fight broke out between them. She tried to use her magic, it just wasn't effective at all. So she went to the one thing that she did have, a steel battle axe that she had taken from one of the orcs. She hefted it, fired up her racial ability of Ancestor's Wrath, and then found something that was effective.
I knew Varen and Thoric. They were my friends. Is this punishment for my past? Is it Mara's will to torment me so? It's time. The skull must be destroyed. If you'll stand back, I'll perform the ritual granted to me by Lady Mara.
And so Dilvari went up with Arander to the area around the Skull of Corruption, and Arander began to pray to Mara that he would be able to take the Skull of Corruption. Dilvari was just watching, waiting for it to be done, when something very interesting happened.
He's deceiving you. When the ritual's complete, the skull will be free, and then Arander will turn on you. Quickly, kill him now. Kill him and claim the skull for your own. Vermina commands you.
So, at this point, I really didn't know what to do, so I rolled a die. 1, 2, 3, yes. 4, 5, 6, no. What would she do? Would she kill him? Would she not kill him? The die roll indicated that Dilvari would not kill him and not listen to the commands of Vermina. And so, we kind of get a better understanding of Dilvari's character.
This temple has taken its toll on me.
And then, like that, the quest was over, and Dilvari wanted to make sure if they were really done. Arander confirmed that the Skull of Destruction was destroyed and that the people of Dawnstar were now safe from the nightmares. He then talked about the fact that he had set up a shrine to Mara at the very surface of the temple, and that he planned to spend the rest of his years praying for forgiveness for his past and present actions. Then he said something that Dilvari didn't expect.
My services to you. If you ever wish to journey with me, I'll be here.
And so Dilvari followed Arander back to the surface and through the temple. She paused along the way because she had a lot of thinking to do. She had been really ineffective, but she had heard Vermina's voice in her head, and so many different things had happened. She began to think that maybe, just maybe, the divines were looking out for her. So she stopped and prayed at the little shrine that was at the top of the temple. After that, she said goodbye to Aranda and decided to head back down to Dawnstar to get some rest and to spend more time thinking about what had happened. The rundown was uneventful and very cold, but she made it back to town in pretty much record time. She went inside, warmed herself by the fire, and decided that this time, with the gold and the things that she had acquired from the temple,
Sorry.
she would get a room
My
of her
mind was
own
just somewhere
and
else.
not sleep in the
Do you
mine.
need a room? Drink.
The room was less than perfect, having two large elk looking over her as she slept, but regardless, she slept a solid 13 hours and got up the next morning to the sound of the Dragonborn comes echoing through the halls. As she was leaving for the morning, she saw a young boy huddled in the corner asleep. She woke him up and found out that he was indeed an orphan, that his father had died and he had basically been left there to fend for himself. Her heart broke a little bit, but there really wasn't anything at this point that she could do.
Took me with him on his last trip. After he got sick, they put us off here and left without us.
Her next stop was the Mortar and Pestle, where she sold off the rare ingredients that she had gotten in the laboratory at Nightcaller Temple. Selling off the Daedric hearts and the glow dust, she ended up with quite a bit of gold. After selling off all the other loot, she went back to the inn and realized she had over 600 gold pieces. She was rich. She got a good meal, warmed up, and then was in thought about the voice of Vermina and what she'd experienced with Mara and Arander. She chopped some wood to clear her head in the cold air and realized she really just wanted to go back to the Nightcaller Temple. She wanted to talk to Arander about her options and what was going through her mind. She found him inside. She mainly wanted to talk to him about the voice that she had heard in her head, the voice of Vermina that had occurred while he was doing his blessing of Mara. She also wanted to talk to him about the divines. He recommended that she could either travel eastward over to Windhelm, where she might be able to sell the cloak of Vermina that she had found, but that trek would be along the mountain line and be very, very cold. He also recommended that they could travel over to Solitude, which was westward, be a little bit of a longer trip, but it would be much warmer. And while there, she could visit the Temple of the Divines and learn more about them. And now, it's your turn to throw in your input. Should she A, travel to Windhelm, B, travel to Solitude and see the Temple of the Divines, or C, not travel at all and make Dawnstar her home? Leave one of these letters as a comment to this video.